Hey there and welcome to Candid Scale Modeling. I'm Adam, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about a tool that seems to lend itself to some confusion and misconceptions, the airbrush. What it is, what it isn't, whether you really need one, and if you decide to get one, what to look for without getting taken for a ride. No BS, no sales pitches or gloss-ups, just some simple, honest info to help you figure out if it's right for you. So rather than just draw this on, why don't we, get right to it. So what is an airbrush, really? Well, an airbrush is nothing but a paint delivery apparatus. A tool. Lets you apply paint to an object using a compressed air source. That's it. Like a brush or a rattle can, applies paint. Unlike a brush, it uses less paint and helps with a smoother finish. And unlike a rattle can, it allows for more control and allows for more varied paint options without having to buy specific cans for each color. That's it. It's not magic. Won't fix a bad paint job. It's not the mark of a serious modeler. It's a delivery device. It atomizes paint into a fine mist, letting you lay down thin, even coats with a lot of control. Perfect paint jobs? Well, it can, sure, but it's not a given. Now yeah, you can get great results. You can do things with an airbrush that are tougher or just plain annoying with a brush. Soft edge camouflage, subtle shading, smooth base coats, filters, modulation, all that jazz. But just because you can doesn't mean you have to, or that it's even the best tool in every situation. So do you actually need one? This is where some people do tend to get a little defensive, so here's the truth. Just bear with me a sec. The short answer, no. You do not need an airbrush to build great models. You can absolutely paint an entire kit, and I mean a good-looking, shelf-worthy build, with nothing but brushes and rattle cans. Will it take more time and planning? Yeah. Will it limit some techniques? Sure. But there are modelers out there who have been doing it for years and have entire collections to show for it. It's about preference, not purity. That said, if you want one, if you're curious about it, you think it might suit your style or goals, then sure, go for it. But, don't let the forums or YouTube comments guilt you into thinking you're not a real modeler until you're airbrushing everything down to your shoelaces or using a $300 setup for a $30 kit, because that's just not the case. So, how about we talk about a couple things that nobody really seems to want to talk enough about? And that's airbrushing is not always fast. It's not always convenient. You need space, ventilation, setup time, cleanup time. You gotta thin the paint, you gotta dial in the pressures, you gotta clean the nozzle, clean the cup, clean the needle. Did I mention you gotta do a bunch of cleanup? If you're building at the kitchen table, and you've only got an hour or two to spare here and there, the traditional paintbrush might actually be the better choice. Airbrushing is great for batch work or weekend bench time, but it's not a quick hit tool. And for a lot of beginners, the airbrush ends up sitting in a drawer because it's just more hassle than it's worth. So before you drop cash on one, ask yourself, do I have the space, the time, the patience to learn it and maintain it? Because there is a commitment component to it. It's not some magic masterpiece cheat code. All right, you have decided you want one. Great, but now what? Here's the big question everybody seems to ask. What airbrush should I get? And it's a good question, because there's a lot of options. So let's start with a high level. What are the types of airbrushes out there? When you're out there looking at them, you're going to come across gravity feed and siphon feed. And that's how it gets the paint. You'll also see single action and double action. This is how it delivers the paint. The control you have over the brush and the paint delivery. A siphon feed, this right here, is really the original style way back in the day. The paint is in a small glass jar with a connection to the bottom of the airbrush. The air is pushed through the chamber, draws the paint up where it's mixed with the air, atomized, and out the nozzle it goes. With gravity feeds, the paint is in a cup on the top of the brush, and it naturally sits down inside the chamber. Don't know if you can see that or not. Air is then pushed through, forcing the paint out the nozzle. Regarding the action, single action has a trigger which just goes up and down. You press down, air comes out, and the amount is usually either static or determined by a separate knob somewhere on the brush. Double action, which is what we have here, has the same up and down motion controlling how much air is provided, but also a back and forth control which allows you to control the pattern. Pulling back pulls the needle back, releasing it forward pulls the needle forward. And the farther you pull it back, the wider the spray pattern, and vice versa. If you're wondering which one is better, well, like everything else, everyone has their preferences. The most common setup, though, for scale modeling is a double-action gravity feed airbrush. They're compact, easy to clean, and great for fine detail work. You'll also need an air source, the most common being an air compressor. Most hobby-grade compressors will get the job done, just watch out for noise. Some cheaper ones are loud, especially if they don't have a tank. A compressor with a tank is highly recommended. It gives a smoother air supply and it doesn't run constantly. So it's definitely worth it. Other than that, there are a vast array of brands and costs. So go out there, see what's out there, and based on your resources, have your pick. All right. So given all that, what do you do? Well, here's my personal honest take. If you're on the fence about it, start cheap. Don't start with garbage, but you also don't have to break the bank. I started with a Harbor Freight Central Pneumatics. This guy right here, $20, and I used this for the better part of 15 years, and I still have it kicking around. After that, I went up to the Master Airbrush. It's this guy right here, and I actually used this right up until recently. In fact, I still have it in the box. I still pull it out every so often, but it's a perfectly fine airbrush. I think this one was about $30, and it did the job. It kept me through a lot of builds. A lot of the builds you see on here, I did with this guy right here. And then I did happen to, as a promo, I got something like this AK branded airbrush. I think this goes for around $30-$40. I'd say it's probably as good as the Master. It really hasn't given me any problems. Not a bad one. Not a bad one to get into if you wanted to. You can watch, you can actually go to their site and watch for their deals, and sometimes they'll have a special or they'll have a promo or something like that. But something like this isn't a bad choice. And then, like I said, just recently, I did decide to go ahead and splurge a little bit and, try out some of these brands that I see a lot of people talking about online. One of them is the Galeri. This is the Galeri GAD 39. Again, I think this was $30 or $40. It is a step up from the Master. It's probably one of two that I use most at the moment. It's good quality, feels good. Really don't have it clog up or spit. But yeah, so like I said, I got $20, around $30. This was around $30 or $40. I think this was around $30, $40. I want to say it was $40 when I got it. And if you have the resources, or you just want to, go for broke, go for it all, you can look at something. I got this Iwata here. I think this was $120, somewhere in that area. Then, of course, you got the Harder and Steenbeck, which you'll see a lot of people talk about. And this again, these two are the most expensive brushes. The Galeri and the Iwata are the two that I use absolutely the most. So again, comes down to your resources. Comes down to, I guess, how committed you think you actually are. If you're just starting and you're really not sure if you're going to want to do it, or you're really not sure that a lot of the process, the cleanup is going to drive you nuts, stick to the cheap brand. These guys work fine. They'll get the job done, and they'll let you know if you enjoy doing it, and if you enjoy doing it enough to invest in a higher quality airbrush. If you're already there and you say you don't want to mess with the cheaper ones, you just want to go for the higher end. Again, these three seem to be the most popular. I do agree. They were all fine. They're all great. So yeah, I guess to kind of sum it up, again, it's fine to start with something like a basic dual action clone with decent compressor and a tank. Great for learning. You'll figure out thinning ratios, spray distance, cleaning routines, all the foundation stuff, without having to cry over a $200 broken airbrush or a $80 bent needle or something like that. And again, if you are committed, or you have the resources and just want to dive right in, or you've been using the cheaper ones and decide it's time to upgrade, you can get the higher end solid tools. They're worth the price if you're familiar with painting, have some idea of what you're doing, or you're committed to learning beyond the basics. But just remember, an expensive airbrush isn't going to fix bad techniques, and it's not going to make you a better airbrusher. You still need to learn the fundamentals. You still need to do the learning curve, and you still need to get good with it, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. So here's the bottom line. An airbrush is a tool. It's not a badge of honor. It's not a shortcut. It's not a requirement. It can open up techniques, yes. It can elevate your builds, absolutely, if you take the time to learn it. But it's not going to do the work for you. And it's not some kind of gate you have to pass through to level up. If you're curious and you're ready for the learning curve, absolutely go for it. If not, no shame at all. Build with what you got and enjoy it, because in the end, that's the point, right? Not worrying about what other modelers think because you are or are not using a specific tool. So yeah, that's it. I think I've taken up enough of your time. I want to thank you for hanging out. And as always, happy modeling.